Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Megan Hubner. Megan, you want to start off by just giving everybody a bit of an intro or a background to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from British Columbia. I live in Whistler, BC, and I have been investing in real estate for just about 10 years now in a variety of different capacities. I worked in medical and pharmaceutical sales for 12 years, and in 2019, I left the corporate world, left my dream job behind, and went in the pursuit of entrepreneurship because I actually felt like I was returning to my roots. I started my career in entrepreneurship in my early 20s and just felt there was a lot of joy working with a small business owner. So I now work as a business consultant, mainly with real estate investors, to help them organize the back end of their business.
So you just told me something before this. Before we started recording.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, for sure. So I work with investors to help them understand how to run their portfolio as a business. We break your business down into the four main business areas, which is human resources, accounting, finance, operations, and sales and marketing. And really start creating some systems in place, things like CRMs, SOPs, making sure you have project management software. I find a lot of investors get really overwhelmed with the day-to-day operations in the business because it is so operations heavy. And when they fail to put in systems and repeatable tasks, then the business starts getting a little bit messy and sloppy in the back end, and it's harder to grow and scale.
Okay, so this probably is the most obvious, easy question off the start. But when do you start this? Do you,
Yeah, it's a great question. You know what? I want you to come to me when you have 3 to 5 properties, not when you have 35 properties. It is such a mess to clean up at 35 properties, and it is really difficult for everyone. It's difficult for the real estate investor. It's difficult for the person who's financing the properties. You know, we've seen so much heartache in the Canadian marketplace in the last number of years here. Haven't done this work early enough. And so I really think that, I would say put your systems in place right from the get-go. For 3 to 5 properties, you are running a business. And start really focusing on the how of running that business.
So how do people run a business, right? Because I know there's even myself, when people have asked me like, hey, how long have you had a business in the US? And I'm like, 4 years. And they're like, you've been in the US for like 9 or whatever it is, something like years. And I'm like, yeah, before that, it was just a mangled mess. But
yeah.
Maybe let's just give some people some tips. Like,
sure.
what do they
I think the first thing to do is really sit down and take a look at your business, right? So if I go back to those 4 business buckets, okay, we've got our sales and marketing. So we've got our messaging, we've got our branding, we've got our online presence, we've got our social media, we've got maybe a website, and we've got maybe an ideal target audience. So that's kind of all wrapped into sales and marketing. Then we've got our accounting finance, and we say, okay, do we have an accounting program that we're using? Is there a way that we standardize track receipts within our business? Is there a way that we categorize those receipts back to specific properties? Do we have a policy on how we pay contractors? Do we just pay them whenever they send their invoice to us, or do we do all of our invoicing on Fridays? So we actually get into systems and things. Because as an entrepreneur, your brain is going so many different miles a minute. It's really difficult to take your marketing brain and switch to your accounting brain within the same half an hour. So I encourage people to really say, hey, you know what? My most creative times are Monday mornings. I'm going to spend 2 hours time blocking on Monday. That's when I'm going to focus in on my marketing activities. And you become a lot more efficient when you start thinking of it that way. If you take a look at any of the large corporations, you'll walk into a room and you'll see an accounting department, a marketing department, a sales team, a human resources table, and everyone has a very different skill set and they look very different. But you as an entrepreneur are actually wearing all of those hats. And so we're going to recognize that we're really good at some things. Like maybe we are actually really good at accounting and running numbers, but we're actually terrible at the marketing and branding because we've got no creativity. We're too analytical. And so I think that when you start breaking it down into those strategic ways of looking at your business, you say, okay, wait a minute, this is an area I'm terrible at. I'm going to hire this out. Or this is a really low value task for me. I'm going to bring on some bookkeeping to help me. And so you really start to get a little more strategic in the moves that you make in your business.
Okay. And I'm just thinking for somebody backtracking a little bit, you said starting off with 3, 5 properties or 5 or 6 property, whatever it was, a small amount of properties. At that point, can they afford to set all this stuff up? I
actually think that it's going to be cheaper for you in the long run, because if you actually if you say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna take the jump and I'm gonna spend my $62 on QuickBooks every month, and that's actually going to help me organize my bookkeeping every single week. Now you're getting slapped with a bookkeeping bill of $2,000 because you've actually created that work in the first place. Same thing with marketing. You don't necessarily need to hire a marketing team to do your marketing. You might just say, hey, you know what, this is an area that I'm not good at, but I do need to do. So I'm going to put in 2 hours on Mondays and I'm going to create a website, or I'm going to spend 2 hours on Monday creating some Instagram posts, or I'm going to get really clear on who I'm actually looking for. I might be looking for a JV partner. I might be looking for a private lender. I'm not totally sure. But right, when you're just running and spinning your wheels, you're not strategic at all. So it doesn't necessarily have to cost you anything to think about how to organize your business as a business.
Okay. And you just mentioned like hiring people.
Yeah.
What is like typically the first hire that these people will hire for a real estate business?
Yeah, first hire would probably be a bookkeeper and potentially a social media person to help you. Is kind of what I see as the two first hires. There are lots of great virtual assistants out there as well.
Yeah.
The thing that I find with virtual assistants is that a lot of people hire a virtual assistant and they're like, I hired a VA, they're going to do all the VA work. And the VA shows up and they're like, what do I do? And you're like, I don't know, the VA work. Like, well, did you create a job description for them? Did you go through and make your list of high value tasks and low value tasks so that you now know what you can outsource to them? And so I think it's just getting a little more strategic. Like, yeah, a VA is a great place to start as well. But again, if you don't know what that VA is going to do, then you're probably best not to hire that person.
Okay. And like, so say we're going to hire a Megan to do this. Like, how does that work? How does that look? I have more free content. So if you're interested, I created a PDF guide and a video to go along with the PDF guide to complement it. And what the guide is all about is the 5 most common mistakes that Canadians make when investing in the United States. So if you're interested in this free guide, go to CanadianInvestingInTheUSA.com/mistakes. And let's go back to the podcast. And it's free.
Yeah, like if you were to hire somebody to help you with
Yeah. So I'm assuming you help people like set this
I do. I work as a consultant. I work with you. I only work one-to-one. I don't do any group consulting because your business is too vulnerable. It's too personable. So I come into your business and I help and coach you and consult with you on how to dive into your business. So the very first thing we do is we spend an hour every single week. We start with accounting and finance. Because if we don't understand our numbers and we don't know how much money to spend, we have no clue if we can hire someone. We don't have any clue if we can outsource some marketing. And so we want to make sure that we're getting clear on what our objective is as far as accounting and finance goes. Once we know that, then we take a look at your sales and marketing. So the second 2 months are kind of spent on sales and marketing. What's our messaging? What do we need? What do we need to add? But a bulk of the time that we spend in our weekly calls is all around operations. So if you are looking to grow your list of real estate agents across the province that you are investing in, or in the state that you're investing in, maybe you need to add a CRM. If you are doing multiple development projects that all have the same workflow, maybe we need to start using a project management software. So we implement a project management software, build out a template for you, and I work with you to help you guide you through these processes. So I take a look at those 4 specific buckets, and we start where it's most critical for you, which is usually the numbers.
Makes a lot of sense. And even like for myself, because a lot of you just talk about like a CRM or a customer relationship management software. For myself, even for a long time, I was like, what's the difference? Why can't I just use Excel? Why can't I do all this? And even I hired a guy to do a lot of my back end stuff. And I'm like, well, I have an app that does this, and I have a different app that does this, and I have a different app that does this. And then he basically put it all into one spot. And
amazing.
You can't explain it because a lot of people are like, well, I already have most of those pieces, but you're like having it all work together it's invaluable. Like like you're like you just can like it's not like I forgot to check one of these pieces of software. It's like it's so much nicer to have one big piece of software to do all this. And so like I know the reason I brought it up because I know that some people are listening and going, I don't want to do that. I already have a way of doing that, and they don't want to change because I am one of those people. I am always resistant to change if stuff's working or I think it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to make strategic decisions for your business, not necessarily for your business today. if you are happy with your 5 properties and you plan on adding maybe a property a year or maybe 2 properties a year, then okay, if it's working for you and you're getting to your objective every year and you know what your numbers are and your business is stable, then that's fantastic. But if you have 5 properties now and you want to add 5 next year and you want to actually start, doubling up, then that's when you really need to start putting some of this organization in place. Because when you get to that 35 properties, right, if you haven't done the organization before then, it gets really difficult to unravel it all.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about this, like, so you've helped a lot of people do this. Have you, after implementing all these systems, how much time do you still need to spend in your business?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, most entrepreneurs most real estate investors are hungry for growth. So they're still looking to keep adding to their portfolio and things. So, you will save time without a doubt by putting these things in place. But what you probably will do is working less in the business and more on the business. And that's the ultimate goal. And so then by compressing your time and working on it and not in it, then you're able to grow and scale a little bit faster. You're able to hire more people, you're able to delegate, you're able to let go of your ego and actually give other people, control in some areas of your business that make sense for you.
That for me even is very hard. I very want to know everything, because honestly, you just don't know who you're going to talk to, and I want to know that I know everything about everything.
Yeah.
So you're like, what does it make sense to hire this part out if I'm going to have to review all these documents anyway? Because I need to know it, right? I need to know everything about it. So
yeah, I mean, I love some of those fractional CFO roles, fractional CFOs, even just like contract marketing people. I love the fact that there's so much contract available. You don't necessarily have to give away your entire department, right? You just give away a little bit of it just to help you again with those low value tasks that are not where you should be focusing your energy.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes it could be that you still want to be the face. So you're still doing the
100%
the videos or whatever,
Yeah.
but you don't need to be the guy to upload it. You don't need to be the guy to edit it. You don't need to be the guy to do all these different steps to build the funnel, to do all that stuff. You can have someone else do all of that.
Yeah, I was talking to a client last week and he was sitting there. What was he doing? He was sitting there learning HubSpot, watching videos on HubSpot. And I was like, it's a good idea to understand the basics of HubSpot. It's a CRM software that you can use for multiple different things. But you don't need to be sitting there for 5 hours. That's not a high value task. You need to stay up here in the CEO level. You need to hire someone for HubSpot and say, hey, this is how I want you to start doing all the data entry. And you need to create a standardization for them. But you don't need to be sitting there watching the training videos. That can be definitely better done by someone who is actually experienced in HubSpot already. You just need to give them the criteria. And they're like, okay, I gotta stay up here, right? Like, don't get down in the weeds because it's so easy to do.
Yeah. And I've also found, I don't know if we want to, I'm not going to go down this path much farther with the VAs, but I found if you hire like people who are trained in that software rather than hiring, cheap people from certain countries and then trying to put them into that software, the amount of work that they are able to accomplish is way more than the $4 an hour VA that did, it's because they're trying to figure it out. They're working so hard on learning instead of actually implementing. Whereas you you hired somebody.
I hired someone.
That can do all these things. Then you get way more value out of it, right?
100%.
Because I've went both ways. I've hired different kinds of VAs, and that's one of the big things I've learned is to, sometimes you just need a general VA to do all kinds of stuff, and that's fine. But for certain softwares and stuff like that, that doesn't make any sense. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast. Yeah,
I would definitely hire a specialist in those areas for sure. And it's easy. You can even bring someone in for, say, 3 months. They get you up and running in the platform, and then doesn't have to be forever too. I think a lot of people have this block around hiring people for the first time. So like, well, it's going to cost me so much money. But again, going back to that accounting finance piece. If you don't know your numbers, you don't really know how much money you have to spend in the first place.
Yep. And,
So
and if you can build some sort of, like, say you're talking about a system or a procedure on how to do stuff or what exactly you're doing, some of these agencies you can basically, instead of paying for like having them on salary, you could be paying per piece work or
yep.
for a few hours here and there, which is what I prefer to do, because then I can, take one thing off my plate, and then and I'm like, oh, I'm not obligated to so many hours, because that's the biggest thing. Someone's like, hire me, and you're like, I don't know if I can fill, a 40
Totally.
hour week. I don't think I can do it because
Yeah.
I don't work 40 hours.
And a lot of entrepreneurs can't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a great point. But I think that really getting specific, like really understanding like where are the gaps in my business right now? Where is my skill set? And then where can I need to start hiring out?
Okay. So let's go more direct into you and your business. So if say like someone's just like, I like what you're putting down. I like how
Yeah.
what this sounds like. I need these systems. I need something more organized in my business.
Mhm.
What does that look like? Are they hiring you for, it sounded like several months. What's the whole thing? What's the package?
What's the package look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 6-month minimum.
Yeah.
So we work together for 6 months at the minimum. Usually people will work with me for anywhere from 6 to 12 months. We come in, we do a deep dive. Like I said, it's a 1-to-1 position. So I work with you each week, same time. We sit down, we break down your business into all the 4 main areas. We take a look at the different areas that we need to really start in. It can be recorded if you want. And then I'm available to you on both email as well as WhatsApp. WhatsApp for rapid fire questions, and email, hey, can you look at this job description for me? Or I'm going to hire this. Can you take a look at these resumes and things? So I help you and support you in that way as well. 6-month minimum, we do that deep dive into your business. Sometimes it gets a little messy. And that's why we spend the actual 6 months, right? Because we can only move as fast as you're ready to move, because you're running a business at the same time.
Before they call you, should they be prepping anything? Should they be working on anything? Because it sounds like, the way I look at them, like, oh, anytime I'm hiring someone, maybe I can do some of these things so I show up and I look a little bit better.
Yeah, what I would do is I would try and understand your finances, right? Like, do you have all your bank accounts routed to the correct places? Do you know what your break even is on every single month? Do you know what the fixed costs are versus the variable costs of running your business? Do you know how much your properties are either cash flowing or in a deficit? And really, I think getting clear on those practices first. If you can come in like having a clear picture of your finances, we're going to save a lot of time. We're going to get straight to the nuts and bolts of the finances, and then we'll be able to move on to sales and marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So Megan, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, wanted to find out some information online, where do they find you?
Yeah, you can jump over to my website, book a free 45-minute consultation there. My website is meganhubner.com, meghanhubner.com, or I'm most active on Instagram. It's just at Megan Hubner as well.
Awesome. Well, Megan, thank you for coming on the show.
You're
honestly,
welcome.
there's if nobody took anything out of this, like at the very least, like either hire Megan or start working on building this out. Because if you want to actually build a business and grow this, I drill this into like all my students. I'm like, you need to start working on this. And it's so much easier when you start, because I didn't start implementing until I had a whole bunch of properties. And like you alluded to, it's a lot more difficult, and you have just all kinds of mess that you want to clean up with, even just different corporate structures, the way they're linked, and just everything, just the way it ties together and the way the money flows. And it's so hard mid-year to rejig the way stuff goes, because I've been there.
And like we just have so much going on in our day and age, right? Like, you can barely remember what we had for lunch yesterday, let alone what the receipt expense was for 2 weeks ago for a property. And so I really encourage people, just to get started, the sooner the better. I mean, we just landed last night in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're moving to a brand new market. We're setting things up from day one, because I don't want to get caught 3 to 5 properties down the road having to backtrack it all as well.
Okay, now we're gonna have to have another podcast interview in a few months to go over that. You just like piqued my interest. I'm like, I know something.
Well, good. I probably can learn something from you. We got here last night after driving for the past 9 days in our trailer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm in Ontario, so it's not as far to get there. I think it took me 7 hours to get to Sin
Yeah,
City.
right on.
Anyway, Megan, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
That was a nice video. Bye.